So, hi and welcome back everyone to the next video of this lecture. In this video, we wanna start and take a closer look on the anatomy of a typical training day to identify different challenges that we have when we try to transfer it in a remote setting and to provide a baseline how to enable a good transfer in a remote setup. So the content of this video basically covers in the first part the analysis of on-site trainings. So we take a look on the individual elements, then we identify our challenges, and in the end we will see that we can shift it to three different separated phases, which basically is the outline for the subsequent videos where we want to take a closer look on all the individual phases. And in the end, we also make some kind of a delta analysis where we consider differences between a training and a lecture to better understand how we can approach the different formats. So first of all, let's get started and take a look at a typical training day that we could experience. So how is the training day starting? Well, let's assume we are located in a hotel as a seminar location or somewhere else. And the first thing that we do in the morning, right after having the breakfast and the coffee, we start with infrastructure preparation, which basically means we are going to prepare our seminar room. Something like arrange the flip charts, put some posters to the wall, prepare exercises and stuff like that. This is typically the first thing we do in the morning. I personally always prepare myself by listening to music, but I guess every one of you guys will have its own habits here. So after the room is prepared, hopefully we are finished before the first participants arrive. Then we approach the second step, which is the relationship building task, typically called as a welcome coffee. Of course, we also like the coffee in the morning, but the main aspect here is that the participants, they come one after the other, and the morning coffee is our chance to get familiar with them, to have a small chat, and to build up a relation that we can rely on later during the training. So the relationship building is one of the most important tasks because here you already can determine the success of the training. So experienced trainers really take a look that they have time for relationship building and they are not busy with final preparations or stuff like that. Yeah, then when the training starts, we start with the participants introduction, which is intended to be an icebreaker on the one hand. So we really want every participant to say something, so as an icebreaker. And aside the meta level, of course, we also are interested and curious to learn about the background of the participants and the expectations. Because typically in a training, what we do is we adjust the way of the training a little bit depending on the background and the expectations of the training of the participants. For example, if it is a mandatory training for them and they don't want to be here, in fact, then you probably would have a different start than if this is a training they have been waiting for a long time and they are so happy that they are allowed to go there. Good, and then after the introduction, and hopefully we are already friends right now with the participants, we are going to deliver the training, which brings us two different dimensions. The one is the content delivery, and the second one is the orchestration and the control of the dynamics of the training. And then in the end, after the delivery, of course, we are closing everything. So we try to get a safe landing. So we make a summary. Typically, we start with a reflection from the participants and to let them say, what is your takeaway? So that's one of the golden rules. In the end, every participant has to say it by him or herself. What is their particular takeaway? Because this, if they say it by themselves, this is the best way to really make something happen after the training. Because the expectation, of course, is that after the training, something should happen. Right? And after the closing session, of course, we also would like to have some feedback to also learn about how we did, maybe to improve ourselves. And typically, after 2 weeks or something, we will proceed with some follow-up, which could be triggered by sending a protocol, or maybe you have more specifically planned follow-up steps. That's the typical anatomy of a training day. If there is a second day or a third day, then we have a little change. So in the end, instead of the closing, we make a closing and a bridge, which basically paves the way for the next day, where we start with a recap and a warm-up. But basically, in the end, it's the same. So that's how on-site trainings typically look, just to provide the frame. And now let's take a look which challenges we can identify. So first of all, the first challenge, which is obvious, is how to shape the relationship layer. So in the on-site training, we meet in the morning, we have a chat, we have a coffee together, and in the on-site, in the remote setting, in the worst case, the participants just enter a video call at 9 o'clock in the morning when the training starts, and this makes it pretty hard for us to build up a relationship. So the question is, how can we build up a relationship with participants in such a remote setting? The second reason is that, of course, in a remote setting, we have plenty of distraction through all the infrastructure, what we typically don't have in the on-site setting. There is a professional seminar host, like a hotel. People just come in, they have a chair, they sit. So there is not a lot of distraction. In online settings, especially if people come in late to the call, there is a lot of distraction and it's hard for them to follow the opening phase of the training, which is crucial for the access. So the question here is how to lower the infrastructure distraction so that people really can concentrate on the content. Yeah, and the third challenge I identify here is the orchestration of a remote training. So if you're standing in front of an audience, then typically you're looking at them, the picture is straight behind you, and by looking at the people, you get some feeling, you get some understanding, you realize when you should increase the speed or when it's time for a break or for an activation. And in an online training, this could be a little bit a challenge. So the question is very general, how to organize and lead online trainings, which basically means how to design the choreography and manage the dynamics in respect to the participants' current mood. Okay, so that's the name the enemy part. And now let's take a look how we can deal with that. So first of all, the basic concept here is that we can stretch the training day over 4 different phases. So the good thing is, by not traveling to a hotel and entering the seminar room on the training day or maybe the day before in the evening, we have more time for a stretched approach. So what we can see here is that such a training day in the remote setting, it can be separated into 3 different phases. So first we have a pre-processing phase for preparation stuff. And then we have the execution, which is basically the delivery of a training. And in the end, this one is complemented with a dedicated post-processing phase. And now let's take a look how we can align such a training day with these 4 phases. So first of all, one of the most important phases is the preparation. Being prepared is always a good idea, especially in such a remote setting. So the first thing that we do is we are going to prepare our infrastructure in advance, which typically means we are going to instantiate our training infrastructure, like all our mural templates. We are going to integrate participants, which means we could add them to the environment, we could prepare everything, so all the technical stuff. The second thing after the technical preparation is the preparation of the participants. So one opportunity of remote settings is that we can stay in contact with our future participants already in advance. So in this participant preparation phase, which we typically take over 2 weeks, we like to do something that is called relationship building. So which means we can have a chat with them. I will show you all the things later. And besides the relationship building, this is also a very useful time slot. So they have plenty of time to experience the infrastructure, to make themselves familiar with it. So in the end, when the training starts, they already know how everything is going and have a much better chance to concentrate on the content. Which of course then is the second phase, the execution phase. And similar to the on-site training, here we concentrate on the delivery of the training and the choreography and orchestration. Yeah, and in the end, same thing as in on-site trainings. In the final step, we're going to integrate some feedback session. So of course, we also want to hear the customers or the participants' voice to get feedback. And this is also a good trick by making them say what they did like or even what they don't like. It is some element of anchoring. If they say that they liked this particular aspect, then they probably will remember it in the future. Yeah, and finally, then we have the protocol, which is a basis factor. But again, so I normally send the protocol 1 or 2 weeks after the training has ended, because this can be an additional trigger to make them doing something. If you send it right the same day or the next day, then probably they have to catch up with all the work that they have missed during the training. So receiving the protocol 1 or day later, when we're in daily life again, then maybe this could be the one trigger that makes something happen. Yeah, so we can see, as we see, we can stretch such a training day over a longer period of time, which is an opportunity. Of course, it also is a little bit of work for us as trainers, because it's not only the training day itself, rather it's a period of time that we have to interact. But on the other hand, we don't need to travel anymore. So I think it's a fair deal and a good balance between work and benefits that we can have out of it. Okay, so that's the baseline. And now in the subsequent videos, we want to take a look at all of these phases, the infrastructure, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. So see you soon.